The In It Together with Lori Lynn Greene talk show is a positive way to start your day. Ready for some encouragement?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm pumped. Let's let the healing begin.
Come be inspired, hear moving stories, even laugh out loud.
Can't make heads or tail of what I'm saying.
Just incomprehensible.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
You'll hear real people doing real things to make a real impact.
You are heroes every day.
Hear honest, compassionate, engaging issues you care about.
You see people come together to do good in our community, and the more we come together, the more good we can do.
Listen in and get started on redesigning your life and hear what's positive in Greater Manchester. Here's your happy host, Lori Lynn Greene.
Here she is. Good morning, friends in Greater Manchester. Welcome to In It Together. We are so glad you've tuned in. If you'd like to find us on the web, you can go to inittogether.net, listen live, watch our previous shows, even link to our Facebook and Twitter. And if you like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you'll see that we are bringing out the best in people to influence positive change in this community and beyond.
And all the ships at sea. Isn't that what they used to say on the news? And all the ships at sea. Today we're going
Well, you really are old, Mark.
Yeah,
Okay, so
well,
today
I am. I was at Lincoln's inauguration. Today we're talking about overcoming your limiting beliefs.
All right, that sounds like a plan. Stay tuned and be ready to connect with us on that. We'll be right back.
Marc Major knows that great coaches need constant training to be effective. As a certified coach, teacher, and speaker with the John Maxwell team, Marc can help you identify and activate your personal and professional goals. If you seek to do more and be more, look up Marc on the web at johnmaxwellgroup.com/MARC Major or call 603-674-6818. Marc Major, growing leaders and adding value.
Hi, I'm Ron Moore, anchor of the Storm Chaser segment, where we'll talk about severe weather in history, science, and today. Join me Fridays at 9 a.m. where you'll learn to be ready for any storm that comes your way. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Greene.
Hi, this is Lori Lynn Greene, advancement strategist and coach trainer at alphaadvancementstrategies.com. Join me Mondays at 9 a.m. where I'll talk about ways to help keep you moving forward in life. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Greene. Welcome back to In It Together. We're kicking off. It's a Wonderful Life. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. I don't know why, but whenever I'm on a radio microphone, I always feel like saying, "Good morning, Vietnam."
Good morning, Vietnam. Oh, yeah.
You saw the movie. Robin Williams, he was such a great talent.
He was.
And
Gone too soon.
anyway, yeah, a lot of good comedians are gone too soon. Unfortunately, they get into some of them anyway, get into the drug culture and whatever. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. But I just cut that off my chest.
Actually, it kind of fits a little bit.
It
We're
kinda
talking about
does.
limiting beliefs. I think for anyone to feel that hopeless would have to feel that they're limited. And, you and I talk so much about the spiritual aspect and how important it is to know that we have a limitless God, and the only limits we really have are the ones we put on ourselves.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to mention is that, considering who our creator is and who our dad is, I call him dad. Anyway, that's God to everybody else, but I call him dad. Anyway, knowing that, we should be confident in ourselves. I always quote Jeremiah 29:11 that says, I came so that you could have a life and have it to the full. He didn't come so that we could have a crappy, miserable life, right? He wants us to do well. So with his help, we can do well.
We sure can.
Yeah. So why do so many people fail to grow and succeed and reach their potential? I think it's just because so many people, they don't believe in themselves. They don't see the possibilities that, God put in them. And here's an interesting statistic. By the time we reach the age of 17, we have heard, no, you can't, 30 times more than we've heard, yes, you can.
Right.
Wow.
By the time you reach what age?
17.
17.
So right away, you're getting negative imprints, negative input into your mind. And, when you have a conscious mind, which you can reason things with, but your subconscious mind takes that all in. And so, even though that's why it's so important to get into personal development, to get into coaching, to get into a situation and reading and things that are going to put positive stuff in.
It's interesting you say that, because what came to mind was can't is learned.
Right.
The word tells us to train up a child the way they should go, not the way they should not go.
Right.
And we are born thinking everything's possible. We're born thinking we can do it until someone tells us not, and then we just go, oh, you mean I can't?
When we are growing up and we are young, we have an imagination that says we can be a fireman, we can be a policeman, we can be a doctor, whatever.
So we're born to believe.
So we're born to believe, and we're born, with that imagination and that creativity, and that's a God-given thing. And we lose that as adults because literally been beaten down so many times by people saying, well, why would you want to do that for? Or, what makes you think you can do that? And things like that. So I think I've mentioned this once or twice on the show. From the age, that you're born to probably age 5 or 6, you have no reasoning power, basically, in your brain. So whatever comes in, your subconscious is going to accept it. And so, if your parents are always, don't do this and don't do this and you can't do that, and it's like, so by the time you're 6, it's like you feel like you can't do anything, right? And so that's a lot to overcome. So positive parenting, letting your kids know they're loved and that they're valuable and they're cherished and they can do whatever they set their mind to do. If you can imprint their subconscious mind early in life, even when you see, it makes me think of when you see these child prodigies. You ever see these child prodigies that are like playing piano concertos at 4 years old? It's because you're able to do that.
Yeah,
or they learn a foreign language or whatever it is. So it's like whatever you put in there is going to stick. So put in good stuff. If you have kids, especially kids under 5 or, all kids, but especially when they're that young and impressionable, make sure you're putting in good impressions in their mind.
Well, I heard, and this is something I talked with Jen Lever about. She's an expert in child development. And by the time you're 6 years old, by then, that's how you've learned how to interact with the world. That's where your emotional intelligence, I guess, is built. Anyways, you made me think, as you're talking about positive parenting, the reality is we've all grown up with people in our lives who well-meaning, lovingly try to, in their mind, protect us from being hurt. But it's a bad idea to try to protect someone from learning, though.
Right.
And that's very different. It made me think of that analogy or that picture where we see in the circuses where they used to tie a baby elephant to a small little stake in the ground.
Right.
And at the time, the elephant is small enough where he can't pull the stake out. So he'll walk several feet and then he realizes what his limitation is. After a while, he's definitely strong enough to pull it out, but he doesn't know that he can. And after a while, they could even take it off of him and he still won't go past that point.
Yeah.
So this is how we learn. We're similar to that.
Right. Yeah. So we end up getting limitations put on in our mind. And, that's what I mentioned earlier about self-limiting beliefs. There's nothing we can't do or learn. Having said that, I'll never be a ballerina. I'm not that nimble on my feet. But you know what I'm saying? If there's something that you're capable
really wanted to,
of,
you could.
Well, I suppose I could. But anyway, so, it can be learned. It can be, and you have to have, the thing of it is you can't be afraid to grow.
Well, I think that's the view of growth, though. For a lot of people, it becomes a real soft spot. Like, as soon as someone is corrected, they'll take offense to it rather than take it as I can learn from this.
Right. Well, that's the other thing too. If you're going to set goals in your mind to do so you can grow, set things that seem like they're out of reach, because it's not necessarily the goal that grows you. It's the person you become, that you have to become to be able to attain that goal. And there's going to be pain with it. So you have to set a goal and a standard high enough that it's worth it to go through that pain, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever it is. I set a goal that I want to do another half marathon in the fall. I'm already running now. And so
that's it. It's a start early.
And so you're not like trying to do everything. It's like we all remember college when we used to do our term papers the night before till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. That's painful. And we learned from that, hopefully. I know I did. So that, I tried to get them done like a few days before or a week before they were actually due, so you wouldn't have to deal with that. And that's the learning process. That's the growth process. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. One of the books that I dearly love, that's a John Maxwell book, and in fact, he's got a version for teens as well. You know how people say sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. These books are titled Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. In other words, even though you have a setback, if you learn from it and you grow and you can be doing better, then it's a positive. Look at it as a positive experience instead of a negative experience.
Absolutely. I'm trying to get back on the Facebook Live here because I had to go out. I was jamming up on me. But I wanted to welcome those who are listening via Facebook Live this morning. We really appreciate you being here. And we want to ask you to chime in on the conversation this morning about overcoming beliefs. If you have comments about that, or you have some input or questions about how to overcome
or
them.
maybe even examples of how you have overcome certain things. Our self-image is so important. I remember, self-esteem is the most important and significant thing to a person's behavior. I remember seeing Zig Ziglar several times, and he used to say, you'll never outperform your self-image. Because what will happen is that if you have a negative self-image, you might do well for a while, but you're going to come back to where you were eventually unless you continue to keep working on your image and putting in good positive things in your mind.
Well, and this is where you and I talk about the importance of understanding that we're made in the likeness, we're made in God's image, in likeness. And when we start to understand what that looks like, self-limiting beliefs just leave, because now we see the possibilities that he has put before us.
Yeah, we've all been born with different gifts and different things that we can do, and we are all born with a purpose. There's never been a person born that God didn't have a plan and a purpose for. And so it's a matter of, are we going to connect to the mind of God and figure out what it is that he'd have us do? There's nothing more satisfying than figuring out, what your purpose is and then living it out.
Well, what's interesting is I feel like we all have the same purpose. Our purpose is to show forth who God is, his love, his life, possibility, all that stuff. But the plan of how that is going to happen is very individual.
Right. And so when I say purpose, as you said, we all have the same purpose, but it's how his plan for us as to how we're going to achieve it. That's what they talk about, people having different gifts, etc. And we all have different gifts.
Yeah, on Monday's show, I covered a little bit of that on how I'm actually going to go look at what the title was. It was what does true success mean to you? And what I was talking about was how the story of the talents, where God gives us all talents, and he did a parable of the 3 talents, and he gave 1 5, 1 2, and 1 1, and the first 2 took theirs and immediately went out
and grew them.
They grew them. They added value to them, and God said, "Well done, good and faithful servants." And then the last one just kind of hid theirs, and he said, "Well, I'm taking you're a foolish, lazy servant, and I'm taking what I've given you." So we want to be a good steward of what he's given us. So what do you have? And this is where coaching comes in. It's like we can help pull out of you what really are your natural attributes that show up in all the things that you're doing to identify what those are.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people that I've coached where through, effectively, questioning and spending time and basically helping them realize what was basically lying dormant inside of them and giving them the confidence to go out and do it.
Right.
It's made such a difference for a lot of people, whether it's been individual people that I've been able to help succeed in getting better jobs or to growing in their company, to actual company owners that have been able to grow their companies by just helping them kind of shine a light on things they weren't seeing. Because let's face it, we all have different strengths and so forth, and we all come from different backgrounds and points of view. So something you might notice about me, I might not even realize, and you can bring that out in me, and vice versa. You might have a problem that you're trying to solve, and okay, so how have you been approaching it? Okay, well, I've done this, this, and this. Well, that's good, but have you thought about coming at it from a slightly different angle? And it's like all of a sudden it's like the light goes off. It's like, man, I didn't think of that. It's like, well,
absolutely,
you wouldn't have, because that's not something in your background.
Just real quick, there was just a small comment here that says, "Have a nice show," and "Hey, Mark." So that was kind of nice. Thank you for making that comment. But when we think about coaching, there's three things that come to mind. There's a lot more, but these three things come to mind. Coaching helps you find out what your natural abilities and attributes are, where your tendencies and giftings might be. It also shows you where you may need to develop more,
right,
and also what to just avoid.
Right. Well, exactly. And I've had people that have come to me and they're not succeeding because of self-limiting beliefs. And when we actually find out what those are, it's like, well, why do you feel that way? And then they explain that, and it's like, well, that's not you. That's not who you are, and that's
right.
And even if you were that now, that's not who you have to stay. Because our self-talk is so important. If people say, oh, I can never do well when I do that, or every time I do this, it doesn't happen, or whenever I go on a diet, it doesn't work, whatever, it's like, I tell people, use the expression "up until now." I heard that a while back.
I love that,
And
Mark.
if you say "up until now, I haven't been able to, but now I'm going to," that your subconscious picks up on that. I talk about the subconscious a lot, but man, it's
important.
so powerful. Sometimes I've heard so many times people talking about, daily affirmations and writing things down on a card or a piece of paper where you can sit there and say, I feel great today. I'm thoroughly blessed today. God has a plan for me today. I'm going to do great, etc. Whatever it is for you.
Well,
read that
here's what
and
I think.
look at it, and that inputs it into your subconscious as well, so that your behavior will start to be what your subconscious
Okay,
picks
kind
up
of what
on.
you're explaining is biblical, where out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks, or out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, and what we hear, we begin to have faith for. I just want to make a little distinction here, though, that I do often.
Yeah.
When we're talking about self-talk here, there's a difference between positive confession and positive thinking, and redemptive confession and redemptive thinking. And, positive thinking and confession is better than negative.
Right.
But what's even better is when our words align to what God would say, what His Word says, because the Word has its own inherent power to accomplish what it says.
Right.
It says that it will not return void, but it will accomplish that which we've sent it to do.
Right.
And so I just want to make that distinction. I am not into, personally, just positive thinking and positive talking, although it's better than negative. But I'm into having God's mind in what He would say about it.
Right.
Because that's what we want to align ourselves to, because He who begun a good work will finish it.
Right. Exactly. And, as a person of faith, when I do those types of things and do positive affirmation or whatever, it's always with that in mind that, I am created by God, and we're all co-creators, by by the way. If we're made in his image and he's a creative being, then so are we. And so if we can tap into the mind of God and figure out, what his plan is for us, and he wants us to co-create our lives.
Absolutely, Mark. All right, well, we have to take a very brief break here. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this. Hi, I'm Lori Lynn Greene, Advancement Strategist and owner of AlphaAdvancementStrategies.com. I've been very successful at helping people overcome stressful situations to get immediate results in their personal and professional lives. At Alpha Advancement Strategies, we provide a non-judgmental and supportive environment, empowering clients to focus more on reaching their goals. You can find us on the web at alphaadvancementstrategies.com or call us at 603-860-9260. Alpha Advancement Strategies is where you invest in yourself.
CrossNet Inc. offers computer and IT services for commercial clients as well as local personal users. We create tailor-made plans for your business's unique needs, from computer repairs to managing networks, servers, and desktops. CrossNet Inc. offers managed services, data backups, virus protection, web filtering, and more. For more information, go to crossnetinc.com or call for your personalized IT services today at 603-589-2520. CrossNet Inc. IT services that keep your business running when you're on the run.
Hi, I'm Marc Major, certified coach and speaker. Join me Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for It's a Wonderful Life, all about leadership development and living a positive lifestyle. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Greene.
Hi, I'm Jen Lever, anchor of the Recovery Now segments. Join me Tuesdays at 9 a.m. where I offer support to families struggling with addiction. Hear personal stories, learn the signs of addiction, and get help for your loved ones. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Greene.
Welcome back to In It Together, in the midst of It's a Wonderful Life this morning.
And dancing to the bump music.
Yeah, talking about overcoming self-limiting beliefs. Believe it or not, we believe it or not, we all have to deal with this sometimes on a daily basis, but it gets easier once you learn, like we were talking about before, how to overcome these. I want to kind of jump into a little bit of what's some of the common self-limiting beliefs people have.
Right.
I want to just say welcome to our Facebook audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join our conversation. Make a comment. Tell us how you've overcome a self-limiting belief, or ask a question if you're not sure how to overcome one. And you can either do it right in the comments on the actual live broadcast, or you can call 603-384-3535. We would love to hear from you. So some of the self-limiting beliefs. The first one, I was actually looking at a blog, Overcome Self-Limiting Beliefs, by Victoria Gigante. Okay, well, I just took it because I liked her list. The first one she said was it's a lack of motivation. We have this self-limiting belief that we just don't have the motivation. And you and I say all the time is we always have what we need already within us. It's how do we tap into it?
Right. Well, if you don't have the motivation, it's because you're not forward-thinking as to, setting goals in what you really want in your life. And not having the motivation could just simply be what we talked about earlier. They've been beaten down so many times saying, that you can't do it. They just resign themselves that they can't do it. And that'll take your motivation away quicker than anything.
Well, let's just say this. When we don't have a motivation for something, it's because we've chosen to believe something contrary.
Right.
We look at it and we've already set ourselves up to fail before we begin.
Right.
And so what we would say is in every situation, you're either going to look for a reason or an excuse.
Right.
And so that's what you have to decide. It's completely in your hands when it comes to that part.
Right. It's like they talk about whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Absolutely.
It's how you look at it.
Absolutely. And so lack of motivation, I mean, again, all of us, and this isn't a judgment, Mark and I are just helping as coaches when we think about someone coming in and says, I don't have motivation. And what I usually do in the coaching thing is it's not advice. I ask prompted questions. So what I would ask somebody that says, I just don't have any motivation, and I can say, well, do you remember the last time you had motivation?
Right.
What were you doing, and how did it feel?
Mm-hmm.
To get them into a place where, you don't always have a lack of motivation. Obviously, you get up every day and you go to work.
Right.
Or, there are things that you do that you enjoy. Is it possible that your lack of motivation comes from the fact that maybe you are doing something you don't really want to be doing?
Right. Well, 70% of the people out there, if not more, get up every morning at a time they don't want to get up to go to a job they don't really like, to be working for a boss who they can't stand. Well, where's the motivation in that, right? And that's why I mentioned earlier, find your purpose, find the plan. If you enjoy what you do, as they say, if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Some people say, 9 to 5 or whatever. I'm sure you're the same way, Lori, because I know we've spoken about it. I'm so passionate about what I do. It doesn't matter what time of the day or night that I'm doing it. If something comes up, I'm doing it.
Yep. And so, how do we find motivation? This is one thing. Well, first you have to don't look outside of yourself. Every time you're looking for something, always look within yourself first.
Right.
And always say, have I always felt this way, or were there times that I didn't feel this way? And what was about that time that made that give me the motivation? And because what I tell people is, you've already learned a lot of the lessons along the way. What you need to do is look inward and say, okay, where are those times? And begin to ask yourself the questions of why did I do well then, and why am I not doing well now?
Mm-hmm.
And try to stay in a positive, like we were talking about before.
Right.
Don't get into because that stinking guy or that person with if you don't get into the blame game, that's a really bad idea. Stay in a state of peace. It's very important to be in a quiet, peaceful state when you're reflective.
And don't beat yourself up.
Right.
Because we're all going to fail at some point. And you need to stay, positive about it. If you start beating yourself up, that's where the negative, self-talk happens. And, I always this and I always that. Well, you don't always.
Never and always are very bad words to use. My husband and I joke around like that all the time.
Yeah.
You always.
Yeah, you always do this, right. Well, it's not always. It's in this situation up until now, or something I heard a long time ago and worked for me, and I even mention it to people or even clients if they have all this, baggage trailing them. I say, go out in the backyard, pick up a rock, and throw it behind you. Now, everything from now on is since the rock fell. So if somebody comes up to you, and says, you always no, that was before the rock fell. That doesn't count, and now we're moving forward.
I like that.
It kind of puts a marker in your brain that, okay, everything that went on before negatively doesn't count now because that was before the rock fell. So it's kind of a mental image thing, but it works.
It is. I've actually used this with clients where they come in and they have so much baggage, and they keep and I say, picture this. Up until this point in your life, you've been carrying a backpack. When you started, it was empty.
Right.
And every time there's been a problem or something, you've picked it up and you've put it in there.
Right.
And now you've got so much and it's weighing you down. Now you could sit there and you can try to take one at a time out, or you could just take the backpack off and start over again.
Yeah. The worst kind of party we can have is a pity party. That's not going to help us.
That's insulting, Mark.
Yeah. And so... the other thing, too, and I mentioned this to you on the break, people always don't compare yourself with other people. Compare yourself with yourself, okay? Don't compare yourself with other people, because you might look at somebody that looks good, smells good, whatever.
And they're not happy.
And the other thing is, even if they are happy, you don't know.
Right.
What they've been through to get to that point.
Absolutely.
They've probably...
People think I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm miserable. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not you. You're like Pollyanna. Anyway, Yeah, so don't compare yourself to other people because you don't know your journey. We all have a journey, and you can't compare your journey to somebody else's. Compare where you are to where you want to be, and not where you've been, and not with other people. Set your mind and set your sights to what you want in life in those 5 areas that we always talk about, with your finances, your relationship, your health, your walk with God, your personal development. Unfortunately, once people leave college, it's like the most interesting thing they ever read is Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. I mean, that's not going to get it done.
That's probably just you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
you have to read better stuff or
Yeah, you
listen
do.
to better stuff.
You do.
And so that's going to help you grow. Growth is an inside-out project.
Yeah, and the Inquirer is another thing that wouldn't be a good thing to read. But so we're going through. I've only said the lack of motivation. I was trying to go through a little bit of self-limiting, but this has been a great topic so far. Common self-limiting beliefs. One was lack of motivation, and another big one people say is I don't have time.
Oh my God, I squish that every time because I think we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. We all have 168 hours in a week. If you work and commute, and that's 50 hours a week, and you sleep 8 hours a night, so we're up to 106 hours. All right, what are you doing with the other 62 hours a week? Playing video games.
Back into the coaching mode though, because I don't want to. We had only like 5 or 6 minutes. I just want to say, when you're thinking I don't have enough time, like Mark said, we all have 24 hours in a day. The truth is we all make time for what's important to us.
Exactly.
And if we're not, what we're doing is sabotaging ourselves for one reason or another. One of the questions I ask clients when they say I don't have time is, I would say, what are you doing right now that feeds you, that makes you feel alive?
Right.
And I let them talk about it and smile and get excited. And I said, now, what are you doing that isn't doing that?
Right.
And it really begins to make them realize, maybe I need to readjust or prioritize some things.
Right. And, sometimes there's things that you may be doing that are actually good things, but may not necessarily fit with your agenda right now. Okay? So, if you're, spending a lot of time, it's balance. Basically, is what it is.
That's what coaching does. It helps you find the balance.
It helps you find the balance. One of the things that I have used in the past is sat down and say, okay, think about your time and let's kind of graph out where you're putting your time. And when they actually see it visually, they're like, oh, my God, I'm putting so much time here, which might be a good thing, but they're doing it at the detriment of everything else.
There's a new thing that the cell phones have. I don't know if it's just the iOS or the other kind, too, but now at the end of the day, it tells you spent an average of 3.6 hours or 9.2 hours on
your phone.
Your screen.
Right.
When you start seeing stuff like that, then you really need some coaching.
Well, you said I don't have time, but the other thing too that I see is people have to value themselves if they want to invest in themselves. And let's face it, whether you're doing books or whatever or investing in coaching, don't look coaching as an expense. Look at it as an investment into your future because, again, I've worked with so many clients that whatever they've invested to me to help them out has paid off, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times over. And so, like you said, people invest in what they have a priority for.
What's important to them.
Right.
Or what they're making important.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I've had people that have come to me because I help people, too, with health and fitness. And they go, well, I can't afford a workout program or I can't afford to go to the gym. And then they come back and they tell me they just spent $400 on concert tickets. Are you kidding me? That concert's going to last 2 hours. You're going to get, and I'm not down in concerts. Believe me, we go to a lot of concerts. But you're going to have 2 hours of entertainment, and then that $400 is gone compared to you could have invested the $400 into coaching or something that's going to help you improve yourself.
Well, since we only have a couple minutes left, I wanted to just touch on 2 more of these really quick. These are very common self-limiting beliefs. We already said the first one was lack of motivation, feeling like you don't have time. Another one is feeling like you're too young or you're too old.
Right.
I raised my kids. I have 4 kids. I raised my children, was home with them, kind of, earned money from home and stuff like that. And then
Right.
when they were in high school and old enough, I returned to college
Right.
in my middle age. And I thought at the time the same thing. Now that's just I'm too old and whatever.
Right.
And I realized, it's just a couple of years. It goes by really fast. And what's going to happen in 2 years if you don't do something
Well, yeah,
else?
you're going to be 2 years older anyway, so you might as well do so. When anybody tells me about an age situation, I always bring up Colonel Sanders. When did he become Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken? He was like 68 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're never too old. I keep saying to people, live until you die. Meaning, basically, don't. I see so many people that go, well, I'm 65 now, I'm going to retire, and it's whatever. And it's like, well, what are you going to do for the next 20 years? Because people are living into their 80s now. I mean, both of my parents are passed now, but they were 86 and 87 years old.
Well, you're either living until you die or you become part of the Walking Dead, which are
Exactly.
people who are alive and capable who have already given up and stopped dreaming and stopped living. Now, last but not least, because we're almost out of time here, is
Let's do an hour
I
today.
don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Where do I start? If I have a lot of different options on the table that I could take, or I don't know what my options are, or where do I start? And a lot of times what I do when I bring someone in as a start is, let's take a snapshot. I draw on my whiteboard. I draw the different areas of our lives that make up our lives. And I talk to them about what are the levels of satisfaction you have in each one of these areas.
Right.
And it's a round wheel. So I tell them the goal is not to get a 10, as you rate those 1 through 10,
Right.
or 0 through 10, is not to get a 10 in everything, but to get a round wheel. So
Right.
if you have like some 8s in areas and then some 2s and 1s in areas, then typically the time spent in the 8s go to the 2s, and so
Right.
it talks about how bumpy your ride is in life.
Exactly.
So how do we start? By getting a snapshot of knowing, where am I now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever you look at a GPS,
you have to put a starting point in, right?
Or you go to the mall. It's
Right.
like you're trying to find a store and you look at the map and it says, well, you are here.
Right. And that's how it is in life. We have to determine where we're at so we know how to get to where we want to go.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the next thing. You find out where you are, and then we start doing the exploration of what are the things, your earliest memories of things that you've always could just lose yourself in and you
Right.
love doing. Some people it was drawing, some people
Right.
it was playing with kids, some people it was building things or tinkering with things. And those things are innate in us.
Right.
They're things that we already have in us that we've enjoyed in our life.
I always ask people, if money was no object, what would you love to be doing?
Right.
And most of the time, it's not what they're doing. But they
Yep.
get into this rut where they got to pay the bills and they got to do the job. And so they stick in something that they're really not happy with. And I tell people, you don't have to necessarily quit that altogether to move on to what you want to do. But you can gradually, in your spare time, maybe you're working 9 to 5, but you can make a life for yourself after
Right.
6 o'clock at night.
So once we identify where you are, and then we do this exploration of what are the things that you tend to just feel so alive doing that
Right.
you enjoy, we can start taking those gifts and stuff and say, how does that translate into today's world?
Exactly.
And that's where you go. That's where you begin to think, okay, now that I can see how that can translate, where I might want to go, what does that mean? What does that take? Do I need to go and take a class? Do I need to, or a workshop,
Right.
or a webinar? Or do I have to learn a little bit more about something? Do I have to let go of some things that I'm doing right now? So you
Right.
start to begin to order your life in that one direction.
Right. And that's one of the things I was mentioning before. You might be doing activities that are actually good things, or volunteering here and there, and those are all good things, but maybe right now you have to set that aside a little bit till you get to where you want to be, and then your time will free up to be able to get back and do those other things. But in the
Right.
meantime, it all comes down to being laser focused, I think.
Well, and the only way to get laser focused is to go through what we said. First off, we talked about motivation, time, all those things. First off, let's find your reason why instead of the
Exactly.
excuse.
Mhm.
So we got to find your why. We got to look at a snapshot of where you are, find out what might be, what are the things that you might be considerations for what direction you want to go, and then start eliminating things that are hindering that.
Right.
And then get laser focused and begin to take one step at a time in that direction.
And it really is a step at a time. Don't look at the ultimate goal and think you're going to get there all in one shot. You're going to, go through course corrections, and it's a process, and you have to grow into your goal. And that's the basic thing. And the last thing I really wanted to mention about self-image and having limiting beliefs, one of the things that I have found really effective for people, and for myself as well, to be honest with you, do what you can every day to try to add value to other people, because you really can't feel bad about yourself when you're doing good things for other people.
Well, and I feel like that comes with once you discover what it is that you really enjoy.
Exactly.
That's where you can begin to do that. Well, Mark, we are out of time. It was a great topic today. Why don't you give some contact information?
Sure. I would love to be in touch with people. You can reach me. My cell is 603-674-6818, or you can email me directly. It's Mark, that's Mark with a C, .major, M-A-J-O-R, at Comcast.net. Or since we're on Facebook Live, look me up on Facebook.
All right. That sounds good. We're going to take a very brief break, and we'll be back right after this. Stay tuned.
Little Leapers and Knowledge Keepers Childcare and Preschool offers learning experiences that give kids a healthy sense of self and meaningful connections to the world around them. We teach children from a positive perspective so they learn healthy conflict resolution and develop character. Owner Jennifer Lever has over 28 years' experience in child development. She's helped children learn to read as young as 18 months. Join our happy place where we make happy happen, located in Pinardville, bordering Bedford and Manchester. Call today at 603-491-1780. Morgan Self-Storage has been serving Manchester and Salem, New Hampshire for over 15 years. Facilities are heated with security and video surveillance in well-lit hallways, easy access loading, and high-capacity elevators. With many-sized units, portable trailers, and boxes for moving, we can meet your residential or business storage needs. 400 Bedford Street in Manchester or 8 Willow Street in Salem. Visit morganstorage.com or call us at 603-623-2000. Morgan Self-Storage, making self-storage secure, safe, and easy.
Hi, I'm Bob Bolek, Chief Instructor of Defensive Strategies and anchor of the Personal Safety segment, where we talk about personal protection, situational awareness, and home defense. Tune in every Thursday at 9 a.m. and refuse to be a victim. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Greene.
Well, that concludes today's It's a Wonderful Life. If you want to join us tomorrow for Personal Safety Master Trainer of Defensive Strategies, Bob Bollard will be here helping us how to stay safe and refuse to be a victim. So have yourself a blessed day. And remember, we are in it together.